Sid's guests.
Little Stevie from the E Street Band, starred on The Sopranos.
How are you, Sid?
My dear friend Jim Nance. Jimmy, how are you, pal?
Hey, Sid, it's been ridiculously too long, my man.
Tremendous actor, Chaz Palminteri. Chaz, good morning, pal. How are you?
Hey, Sid, how you doing?
She is Jennifer Love Hewitt. Jen, Sid down in Miami. How are you?
Hi.
The host of OMG, The Insider, Kevin Frazier.
Good morning. What's going on? How are you?
Bringing on Tom Arnold today.
Your show is way, way different.
The great number 56, Lawrence Taylor.
Hey, Sid, what's going on, buddy? How you doing?
The coach, Mike Ditka. Mike, how are you, pal?
I'm doing good, guys. How are you?
Jesse Ventura.
Sid, thank you, and keep up the great work.
Here is the very, very lovely Maria Menounos. Maria, good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
The very funny Bob Saget. Bob, it's Sid down in Miami. How are you, pal?
I'm excellent.
My dear friend Geraldo Rivera. Geraldo, good morning. How are you, pal?
Hi, Sid. I miss you.
Jane Velez Mitchell is one of the best shows on television today. Jane, how are you?
Good morning, Sid.
Sid Rosenberg. Mornings on 640 Sports.
Nothing so loud as hearing when we lie. Truth is not kind, and you said neither am I. And the air outside so soft, saying everything.
Donald Trump there with Jake Tapper. That was on his regular CNN show, right? Not State of the Union on Sunday.
Right, the lead.
Yeah. Just want to clarify quickly why I jumped all over Francesa last hour. And that is because I never shared this before, but last summer when I filled in with Mark Malusis, Francesa knowing full well how good I am, Malusis and I worked together. And Mike came in one day and walked up to me and was like, it's not working. You guys, he's terrible. And then he walked up to Now, I don't care because you know me and you know, the Mike's been saying that type of stuff in and around me for 15 years, and that's just the way he is. I know he is, and it doesn't bother me because I know at the end of the day, no matter how much money he makes and what his ratings are, I'm a much better radio host. But then he said it to the kid. He said it to Malusis, and Malusis' day was ruined. And I was like, Mike, don't.
Wow.
What? You can say it to me because you don't intimidate me, and I'm not impressed by you, but don't say it to the kid. So I was pissed. So I've been a little tougher on Mike over the last year or so. I did not tell everybody that story. Mark Chernoff knows that story, and he was pissed too, mind you. But that's the type of stuff that Mike does. And again, for a guy like me, it doesn't matter. I don't care. But when a young kid hears that from Mike, especially a kid like Malusis, who all he wants to be for some reason, I don't know why, I told him not to be that way. I've given him advice. I'm like, don't be Francesa Jr., be yourself. So he crushed the kid, and that's the type of stuff Mike does. So when you hear me kind of go up on Mike on this show, and I've got 30 other stories. And I got good stories about Mike, too. You know, when Joe Beningo's house burned down and he lost everything, Mike came in the next day with $5,000 in an envelope and never asked for that money back. So he's done some good things, too, but I saw a lot of miserable stuff, and just last summer I saw something else. So anyway, that's Trump and Tapper. My next guest is, well, I love this guy. And not because he's nice to me on Twitter, which he is, at Lionel Media. He's a great guest. And every time he comes on, the feedback we get, and guys, if I'm not telling the truth here, then call me out right now. Do we not get amazing feedback every time Lionel is on?
Absolutely.
I think most of our listeners think he's the smartest guy we've got. And the folks that don't think he's the smartest guy we've got think he's the craziest guy we've got. Either way, he's a winner, and so are we. So with that said, here's my good buddy, Lionel. Good morning, Lionel.
Let me tell you something. Anybody who can work Toad the Wet Sprocket into a spot set rotation is okay in my book, my friend.
You're amazing. Every time you come on, you absolutely nail the artist of the song we play when you come on.
One of my absolutely, I'm kind of like into that era. Remember the Gin Blossoms and that kind of, it was kind of good. Okay, first of all, a couple of things. Let's get down to business. You were great in New York, but understand something. I hope you realize one thing. You can't do here what you do there.
Yeah, I know.
When you get on that plane, something happens to you. You come here. Did you realize when you came to New York how insipid, how vapid, how vacuous, how desiccated this radio is? You walked in there. You were ready to go, ready for, just for hells to blaze, for the angels of hell to be unleashed. And they looked at you like, hi, Sid, how are you? Welcome. It's not the same. New York radio is gone. It's like Death Valley days. You saw this. You had to have seen this. Weren't you unimpressed with everything? When you looked around, everybody, they phoned it in. They've lost their soul. There's nothing here. So whatever you do, if you ever, God forbid, ever even plan to do it, simulcast. Do it from where you are now. The energy you have here cannot be duplicated. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
You cross the bridge from LaGuardia and your soul dies. It's just dead here. I'm serious.
You know what it is? And you know this, and you're exactly right. I am, for the most part, really unimpressed by what I hear up there. Really unimpressed. But what happens is it's because they're so nervous up there. They're so worried up there. They're so politically correct up there. Like places like this,
Yes.
you can say some horrible and funny and graphic and condescending things, and people love it. Up there, they get berserk.
I'm
It's
telling
nuts.
you. And also, it's changing. The matrix is changing. Now, a couple of things, too. Let's get down to business. First, do you know what today's mainstream media are? Because don't forget, media is a plural noun. What mainstream media are, what the news media are, they're grief counselors. You know, whenever there's a tragedy, Sid, at a school, whenever there's a tragedy, some kids shoot somebody up, and the kids are freaked out, they won't go to school, they bring in the grief counselor. The grief counselor who tells kids, look, it's going to be okay. Hey, look, it's going to be safe. Don't worry about it. Hey, look, everybody hold hands. Let's sing Kumbaya. Everything's all right. And God love these people. I'm not trying to diminish, but that's what these people are, especially on Sunday. These people have sold their souls. They're told, now listen, you go out there and whatever you do, don't ruffle feathers, because we have a news organization that's about to be shuttered. We're on fumes. We can't make waves. If you think you're going to go out and be a Woodward and Bernstein, if you think these are the days of Nixon and Vietnam and the Pentagon Papers, when actual media folks had huge elephantine balls, huevos for my Cuban friends, if you think you can go out there and strut your stuff and make a scene and really let the world know that you're there, you're out of your mind. When you go out and you talk to Trump, you be deferential. The only organization that even barely is pubescent is Fox News. Everybody else, every Sunday show, whether it doesn't matter, across the board, they're grief counselors. Don't make any waves. Now, listen to what Trump does. Whenever Trump, I want all of your incredible audience to listen to this. Trump is so terrific. Trump looks like a guy who was just stumped with a question. Listen to the way he answers anything. If you ask me, or if I ask you something weird, Sid, about, and even with your encyclopedic sense of sports, about Indonesian cricket, and you wanted to answer the question, you would say, well, as far as it looks like a good team. They seem to be ready to go. That's Trump. Yeah. Trump doesn't know anything of what he's talking about. He just is broad. He has brio and bravado. What do you think about Scott Walker? Well, I don't know. Wisconsin is not that great. He's a strong leader. I'm a great leader. I'm a great businessman. I have beautiful properties. I have wonderful wives. I have this and that. He never talks about anything specific. Trump, how are you going to do this? Well, you got to know how to negotiate with China. Well, how are you going to do that? Well, you got to know that the problem with this. Well, what are you going to do? I really don't know what I'm going to do, but I speak in bumper stickers. He speaks in little echo chamber, little morsels, little vignettes, little cute, pithy phrases. It doesn't matter. He has, as W would say, he's resonated with the people. He has hit a nerve, and he also lives in a gravity bubble that's his own. If you and I came out and slammed Mexicans, they'd kill us. He goes up in the polls. Whatever goes up, goes down. He switches it around. Now, the thing that should absolutely infuriate every American is how Hillary Clinton has not been frog-marched out of Chappaqua, slapped with cuffs, indicted and incarcerated.
Well, hold on.
For behavior.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that has been the last couple of nights, Lionel, and that's why Kimberly Guilfoyle is coming on this show today. That has been the discussion. In fact, Hillary Clinton has done something illegal here. It may be a misdemeanor. It may be a felony. But let's not excuse the fact that in the end it looks like Hillary Clinton has done something illegal here.
Well, when you look at what we did to David Petraeus, who basically, you know why they got him, because his little girlfriend, when she did that pillow talk, she spilled the beans about Benghazi, and they wanted to teach him a lesson. Oh, no, because remember at her University of Colorado speech, that's what was his demise. Remember Sandy Berger?
Sure.
Sandy Berger, the Clinton guy who walked in and stuck papers down his pants. There were other people who have been absolutely, keep in mind that under this Obama administration, what they have done and the war that they have declared against whistleblowers for the most abstruse and arcane of violations, it is unbelievable. As I have said since the beginning, Hillary Clinton is not going to be the nominee. Hillary Clinton is going to drop out either because of health, because everybody forgets the fact that remember, she had all kinds of problems. She was passing out, and she had blood clots, and she couldn't testify before Benghazi, and she wore the prismatic lenses, and either that or this or Huma or God knows what. The DNC right now, mark my words, they are huddling, and they're saying, she's got to go. She's got to go. Joe Biden, tee it up, babe. Now, Joe Biden, bless his heart, I don't mean in any way to talk about a father or a parent who's lost a child, but don't give me this line about, I never really thought about running, but my son inspired me. Okay, Joe, whatever your story is, this is like pro wrestling. This is a Gordon Solie routine. Okay, if that's your angle, stick with it. They're teeing him up. Also, Elizabeth Warren, remember, she always said, I'm not going to run. I'm not going to run. That's when Hillary was there. That's a different story. And Bernie Sanders. Remember, Sid, whether you're left or right, America needs at least two parties, two directions. He is rejuvenating and revitalizing this torpid and absolutely moribund Democratic Party that never had any platform whatsoever. You might consider him too left. It doesn't matter. He's sparking an interest. He is the stalking horse for Hillary or whoever the presumptive candidate is. He's the inner gear. He's making Democrats, for the first time, reacquaint themselves with what exactly a Democrat is. Now, historically, this is important. If you go through history, right around this time, Sid, there's always been the outlier, the guy that came out of nowhere. The Michael Dukakis, until he wore a hat, until he wore a tank helmet. But then there was this guy named Bill Clinton. And who's he? And then who gave that awful speech at the DNC? Then there was a guy, Jimmy Carter, a peanut farmer, and the kid with the funny name and the big ears, Barack Obama. You watch. The Democrats are sitting back. Now, let's talk about something else. Imagine this deal. Wrestling. The world is pro wrestling. It's a work. Everything is a work. Trump's taking heat. You know this, and I learned at the foot of Gordon Solie. All of my Floridian friends will know that name. This is what happened. Trump came along and he said, okay, I'm going to do my usual thing. All right, DT, go ahead and do it. I'm going to go out and give it a shot. Just going to pump up the Q rating. Just keep the name alive. Sure, I understand. Alan Keyes did it. Gary Bauer did it. People do it. All of a sudden, he says something about Mexicans. He said, oh, Donald, wow, man. Sayonara, dude. Well, not so fast. No. All of a sudden, he's in this unique gravity bubble. What's up is down, what's down is up. And then he continues. And the more he says, Megyn Kelly's blood, this and this, and he can't, who knows why? Don't ask why. It's like particle physics, string theory. Who knows? That's the way it is. All of a sudden, somebody picks up the phone and either talks to Ailes or whoever these people are, Murdoch, and says, we got to do something about this. This ain't right. Because Jeb, whether you like it or not, Jeb's our guy. He's the ruling class favorite. He's the establishment dude. Who is this Trump? What is he doing? Shut him up. So they have the thing in Cleveland. What's the first question before Megyn Kelly? Brett Baer, do all of you pledge not to go rogue, not to go third party, not to go independent? They didn't even hesitate. They didn't even pretend to play fair. They weren't interested in even creating the illusion of being debate-like. And Donald said, So that's the deal. So here's what happened. As we speak right now, George Will talked about it. Pat Buchanan, I love that guy.
Me too.
Pat Buchanan today, read him. He even said that the GOP, the RNC, I guess, is dealing with how to jettison this guy. And then Bill Clinton calls him up in the middle of the night and says, listen, Donald, they don't respect you. They don't respect you. You see, these guys have egos, kind of like, I don't know, media people. You know, Sid, those guys in New York, they don't respect you. Come work with me over here. Let me show you a picture. Let me take you to the mountain. Let me show you. This is about history, Donald. Sid, this is about history. Go and show these people. You know, it was fun and games before, but I've got a big... Guess what? That's Ross Perot. That's the Democrats. So now you've got, believe me, Reince Priebus, they're meeting and saying, what do we do with this guy? He's reframing, retooling, recalibrating the GOP message, and he ain't one of us. He's not one of us. And you got other people who are so scared they dare defame him. So that's fascinating. And let me finish one thing before we end, especially when it comes to my native Florida. Not Florida, Florida.
Right.
We have forgotten what rapacious, murdering villains that brothers Castro are. How Castro Fidel has not been whacked, how he hasn't been taken out, goes to show you that the deal was made a long time ago. Believe me. Like Michael Corleone said, history has told us anybody can be hit. This son of a bitch is talking about us paying him millions for what? Before anybody does anything, if John Kerry had a pair, if this president had a pair, if the United States were the United States, I'd say before we put the flag up at the embassy, before we start talking about mojitos, and by the way, since when are mojitos in Cuba connected? Before we talk about cigars and 57 Chevys, let me explain something to you. This guy is a racist. You look at the Cuban cabinet, he has made it absolutely clear. If you think Castro has it for people of color, you're out of your mind. But before we get to that, what about repatriate? What about compensation? What about reparation for the Cubans who had to leave their land, who had their property seized? Before we talk about this, it can't be that much. At least let's pretend that we care. We talk about reparations of every person, every conceivable faction in the world, and that's great. This media, this insipid, vapid, vacuous, feckless, impuissant, ballless, atesticular, invertebrate media of yours, these people with this grief counseling mentality, they're lionizing this romantic Marxist, this barbate. Oh, look at them, the last holdouts of this communist regime. Look at them. We're gonna be partying. Hey, cigars for everybody. Look at how they are hand in hand retooling history. These people are horrid. I don't think any of us really understand, and I'm going to say this right now, the biggest enemy that we have right now in this country are the media, because they're giving us this circus mirrors, Sid, this weird parabola. They're giving us this distorted sense of what's important. We are, for the first time in the history of the world, we have American and NATO troops on a Russian border, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, and we're talking about Cecil the Lion, Confederate flags,
Well,
Tom Brady's balls. What is the matter with us?
I couldn't agree more. Well, just another amazing 15 minutes out of Lionel. My phone, did you hear my phone blowing up during that? Did you hear that? My phone, because it vibrates, yeah. And people are like, oh, my God, this guy's great, this guy's great, this guy's great. And he's right. You know, we talk about that quite a bit. The stories that are getting coverage, Tom Brady's balls, like he said, or Khloe Kardashian getting ambushed by Lamar Odom, even some of these other Middle East stories that are seemingly important. There is some serious stuff going on. Lionel always brings up Russia. I like that about Lionel, because Putin is a guy that a lot of folks think a lot more dangerous than some of the folks that get a lot lot of airtime here in the United States. I can't say enough about Lionel. I want you to check him out. He's on Twitter at Lionel Media. He puts up some really good videos. He writes some great stuff. I know he's on in New York all the time, too. I think he was on Levin's show just last week. He is a magnificent talent and a great mind, and we love him. So thank you, Lionel, for another great 15 minutes.